It's Candice, back with Grow Local, and guess what, you guys? It's spring. It's time to start thinking about your garden. Go find your garden catalogs, get online, start perusing if you haven't done so already, because you should be starting some seeds inside. Rumor has it that this spring is going to be a little bit longer, cooler, and wetter than what we normally get, which is fine because it's going to be great for growing lettuce and spinach, and you'll get a bumper crop of peas probably. But any which way you look at it, I lucked out today because I get to do this in this beautiful greenhouse, so I don't even have to worry about getting rained on. It's a bonus for me. I was saying, grab your catalogs, because they will have usually a plant seeding chart in it, and it'll tell you when you can direct sow things and things that you can start indoors. Right now, the things that you'd start indoors are your heat lovers, your tomatoes, your peppers, things that are slower to start but can't go outside right now. And guess what? There's not a whole lot of stuff that you need. I mean, it would be beautiful if you could start your garden in here. Can you imagine the bumper crop you'd have? Oh, Dinah. But most of you, if you're like me, just have a window that gets a lot of good sun. South facing is the best, east if you have to. You want to make sure it's in a room that's got some decent temperatures. Just room temperature is fine. If you are going to be growing your seeds really close to the window though, do yourself a favor and pull them back at least a foot away from the window at night, because we still do cool down in the evening, and sometimes that coolness with the wet on your seeds creates an environment that causes damping off, and that's when you look at your little seedlings popping up above your soil and they look so awesome, and then you go check them out the next morning and they're all just laying flat, and that's damping off. It hits at the ground level, it's a fungus, and they're toast. It means you just have to start again. So all sorts of seed catalogs. Some of them, like this one, have really good information in them for the different kinds of herbs and veggies that you're going to be wanting to grow, a little more specific. This one's a really good one because it is local. And that's one thing I really want you guys to make sure. If you're going online and you're checking out the charts, make sure it's for your area. I had one person that was really upset because their tomatoes died as soon as they went outside. And I went, well, well, it's not even time to plant tomatoes yet. And they said, well, no, you can get 2 crops. You can plant them outside in late February, early March, and then you plant them outside again in August. Dude, that's southern Texas, okay? That's not Port Alberni. So be aware of where you're getting your information from. Make sure it's pertinent for our area, okay? Now, having said that, what do you need? You need a sunny window, you need warm temperatures, room temperatures, and you need containers. You can do things in, these are called cell packs. They come in a whole multitude of sizes. These ones happen to be really, really small, really narrow. Good for one seed to go in each. You could use your bin that you get your lettuce in during the winter. Put your soil in. Sprinkle your seeds on top, pat them down, give them a mist, put your lid down. You can even take the tray that you put your pots in. If you don't have these, just fill it up with your seed starting mix, and make sure you're using a seed starting mix or an indoor potting soil, okay? If you use your regular garden soil, it's going to be too heavy, too dense, and probably going to have too many bugs that are going to find your house really inviting. So make sure it's a seed starter mix. These are called coir pots, and they're lovely for starting. These ones are nice because you can put your soil in, pop your seed in, and then when it's time to transplant, this whole thing just goes in the ground. The roots will go right through it. Not an issue. Makes life easier. These are called peat pellets or peat pucks, and they're just a compressed peat moss in a little net bag that you throw in water, and they soak it all up, and you just pop your seed in there and then put them on a tray, and they grow really, really well in those things too. Again, because you can just take them, and when it's time to transplant them, put them in the ground. You do not have to fertilize your seeds when you first plant them. Think of a seed, it's a plant in a box and it packed its lunch. So you don't need to do anything with it. You're going to put it in the soil, you're going to make sure that it stays moist, not wet because you don't want to drown them, and not too dry because if they dry out, they're toast. They need the moisture. And what kind of things can you plant now? Well, you've got your planting chart that you can use, and it will say, if it's got the little dots, that means you're starting it indoors. If it's got a solid line on this one, it means you can plant directly in the ground. There's also something called phenology, which is a lovely little rabbit hole to go down on a lazy day, okay? It is, it deals with the seasons, plants and animals and how they interact with each other. There's bigger, more scientific ways of explaining it, but that's pretty well what it is. The Chinese have a proverb that say that plants recognize the seasons sooner than man. And it's true. Has anybody ever heard that when the forsythia is in bloom, you can plant your peas? That's one of them. Here we're going to have a long, cool spring. So the chart might say, yeah, you can direct sow at the end of February. But if we're still under snow, you're going to be sitting there going, I'm not really sure if it's right. Maybe I should wait a couple more weeks. Granted, the chart gives you a little more leeway than just the end of February. But if you follow the old phenology of the forsythias in bloom, it's okay to plant my peas. It's okay to plant my carrots. The lilac is one that is really prevalent in that one. When the leaves first start to unfurl, like when they're just starting to leaf out, that's when you can plant those cool crops like your radishes and your lettuce and your spinach and your peas. And then when they start to bloom, you can plant warmer things like cumin and cabbages. And then when the blooms start to fall off, that's when you would plant your warmer ones like your beets and your Swiss chard. I might not have all these guys perfect. I'm just a forsythia, plant my peas. That's the one I grew up with. Some people will say, watch for the dandelions blooming at the same time. Another good one. And others will say to watch daffodils. When the daffodils bloom, then you can. But that's where I say you need to do a little bit of research and have a little bit of common sense. Because if you buy daffodils at a greenhouse or a garden center, there's all kinds of daffodils. And some bloom really early, some bloom really late. Which daff are you supposed to be following? Which is why I like lilacs. And that's it for that. Seed viability. Seeds can last for quite a long time. You might have them kicking around your house for 2 to 5 years, and you're not sure if they're still going to work. Well, there is a paper towel and a plastic bag trick that you can use. And I actually did these a week and a half ago because I thought I was going to be filming a lot earlier. So these are really gone. But this is my radish and this is my lettuce. And all I did was wet a paper towel, put 10 seeds from the lettuce, 10 seeds from the radish, spritzed them with water, folded the paper towel over, and I put it in a Ziploc bag and left it open. Checked it after a couple of days and found out that, hey, 9 of the lettuce seeds sprouted, 8 of the radish. So that tells me that my seeds are really quite viable. I can go ahead and plant as usual. If you have limited space, this works out really well too, because then you're not wasting a pot, you're not wasting your time. You can spritz these guys, check them every couple of days. If they're starting to sprout, pull them out, pot them up, and you're good to go. You haven't wasted your money, you haven't wasted your time. And if you have things in your cupboard that you don't normally find and you want to try growing, this is one. It's a jar of black sesame seeds. I had no idea if this was going to go or not, and as much as I hate to say that I go through my cupboards regularly, this is probably 4 years old. But I thought I was going to try it. So I threw them on the paper towel, stuck them in the plastic bag, and check it out. I got black sesame seeds. Out of the 10, I've got 6. So I'm still thinking that's pretty good. So if you've got seeds or beans or something in your cupboard, and they're the ones you like to eat, and you think they might grow in our area, take a chance. See if they'll sprout and try to grow them. Because you should always, when you're planting your garden, be planting things that, A, you actually eat, not you think you eat, but you actually eat, or things that are really expensive in the grocery store, so that if you just absolutely love hot peppers or you love lots and lots of tomatoes, grow your own. It's going to be a lot less expensive on your pocketbook. And go through the cupboards. It's really good. You can get the kids involved. Have them go through the cupboard, have them go through the fridge. See what seeds grow, see what seeds don't grow. Try to figure out why they didn't. Well, did the pepper get too chilled in the fridge? Were the beans were they already cooked before we tried to grow them? There's all sorts of things that kids will try and they will look at and they'll learn from. And it's really actually quite a lot of fun. So what else am I going? Oh, I was going to give you a tip on tomatoes. We'll provide a link at the end for a site called Roots and Refuge. And she's got some really great tomato and carrot. She's got really great gardening tips. And in my world, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Go watch her video. But one of them is, with your tomatoes, you get your seed starter mix, you pop it in there, and then you're going to take maybe 20 seeds, and you are just going to sprinkle them all over. Make sure they're spread out a bit. Cover them up with some more soil, and then let them sprout. It takes up a lot fewer pots, a lot less space, and when they get to the stage where they are about yay tall and they're starting to get their first set of true leaves, then you can actually take them apart and repot them. You just transplant them into a deeper pot and they will grow on, and it's lovely because usually by that time you can start getting them outside to get a little bit more sun, a little more hardened off. But I thought it was just an absolutely brilliant trick. And if this works really well for me, you guys are probably going to get tomatoes from me later this year, because that's going to be an awful lot of plants for me. So grab the internet, get your laptop, get your pencil and your paper, start perusing, get the kids involved to see what they want to grow this year. And for heaven's sake, if you are really relaxed and you're going through those magazines or you're going through the internet list and you got a glass of wine, don't place the order till after your coffee tomorrow morning, or you might not have money left for rent. Hey, it's Candice with Grow Local, and right now we're going to talk about some pots. Different pots for different things, different situations, but it's kind of nice to know what kind of pots you want to use for what you're going to be growing. These are your terracotta pots. They come in a whole lot of different sizes, different styles. Some of them are really pretty and intricate. Some are just really plain Jane. They're really good when you are growing things that don't like to stay wet, because terracotta is clay and it is really, really porous. Downside of these is that if we have a lot of wet weather and cold weather, which we do, you get that expansion, contraction, and they do have a tendency to break. But if it's in a sheltered spot, these things can last you for years. And if you look around, some pot companies have actually started adding certain chemicals to make their terracotta pots more frost-proof, which is kind of exciting. They are a little bit on the heavier side, but like I said, they are really good for growing things like your rosemary and your oregano, cactus and succulents, because sometimes you want to have kind of an edible looking garden. These ones are going to be your ceramic. So they're still fairly porous, but they usually have a finish on the outside that holds more of the moisture in, so they have less of a tendency to crack. But again, when you're purchasing them, they will usually say they're frost resistant, not frost proof. So they will last you for several years. If you know that we're going to have a whole lot of rain followed by a cold spell or cold snap, try to keep your heavier pots on caddies, because you should actually move them into a sheltered spot closer to the house or something. Otherwise, you're going to find that expansion and contraction and your pots will crack. But again, you should get years out of these things. Next up, plastic pots. really good for things that need to retain moisture. They're a lot lighter, so if you're growing on a deck or a balcony and weight's going to be an issue, these are really good. You can find plastic pots now that actually come with a guarantee that they're not going to get brittle and they're not going to sun fade for up to 10 years, which is really kind of nice. And like I said, they are so good for so many things, and they come in so many different colors and styles. These are really a go-to one. Other ones you can get are made out of fiberglass. I don't have those today. But again, they'll last you probably longer than the plastic pots will. And again, they come in a whole bunch of different sizes. The prices on your plastic pots, ceramic pots, and your fiberglass ones are anywhere from inexpensive to, are you kidding? So bear that in mind when you go shopping. Other things you can use are your hanging baskets. This is a coir insert, and you can get these in window boxes and huge, huge ones and really small ones. These guys, this is what they look like when they're new. This is what mine looks like after about 3 years. Still got mud on the bottom. The only time I have really had them get really ratty is when the birds discovered them and wanted to use it for nesting material. And thanks, I'll share. I have no problem with that. And for some of your other hanging baskets, good old moss. If you've got a fairly tight weave on the basket and you've got access to moss, green side out, brown side on the inside, make it a good big fat layer. It really acts as an insulator, keeps the soil in, keeps the moisture in. This one is a felt, and they come in different sizes again. And this one's a little bit too small for this hanging basket, but you'll get the idea. You just pop it in and put your soil in. Again, it holds the moisture beautifully, doesn't allow the soil to all dribble out, and the plants really like it. So there's a couple of different options for you, a couple of different ideas. If you are really on a budget and you've got the frames, but you don't have the money to go out and buy the liners, if you've got old fabric, you can use burlap, you can use flour sacks, you can use old sheets or your kid's old flannel shirt. It doesn't really matter, because all you need is something that's going to not fall apart, hold the soil in, and especially with hanging baskets, your plants are probably going to be cascading over the sides and nobody's going to know what's in there either. So use what you've got, make the most of it, and have fun growing. Hi, it's Candace with Grow Local, and guess what? We're in the kids' corner today. And how many of you kids know how long it takes Mother Nature to make about that much topsoil? Any ideas? Guess what? It's like 500 years. A crazy amount of time to make that much soil. That's good, that's viable, which means it's good for growing in, okay? Do you know how much of the world's surface we get to use for growing all the food that we eat and all the plants that we use for making clothes, like your hemp and your cotton and your flax? Ooh, well, it depends on what site you go to, but it's anywhere from 2% to 6%, which isn't a lot. And if that's hard to imagine, I'm going to show you with this apple. Pretend this is the whole world, okay? This is the world, and I'm going to cut it up here. And I'm going to cut it into 4 pieces. Might not be totally even, but we cut it into 4 pieces. And you know what? I'm going to put 1, 2, 3. Those are gone. Guess what? Those are all the oceans. So this is what we've got left for the world. And I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to take this part away, because that's everything that's too mountainous, too wet, and too cold. So think of swamps and the top of Mount Everest and the Sahara Desert, okay? Now, I've got this piece left, and I have to cut him up. And I'm going to cut him into 4 pieces. And out of those 4 pieces, I have to put 3 away. Because those are all the cities and the highways and all the back roads that we take up. So do you see this little piece of apple here? That's how much of the Earth's surface we get for growing on. So that's why we have to take care of what we've got, okay? You don't want to be throwing the paint cans in the middle of the guy's garden. You want to be leaving your junk out where we're supposed to be growing our food. Just be careful. Take care of it. And have fun growing. Do you like to have fun growing? Do you want to grow stuff? Did you know you can make little pots on your own? If you have a little pot this size, you can grow a lettuce, you can grow a pansy, and I know pansies are flowers, but did you know that you can put the petals in your salads and eat them and they taste pretty good? There's another lettuce. Ooh, we've got a Swiss chard. It's really pretty. You can get ones that look like rainbow colors. They're reds and yellows and greens, or you can get just the plain reds, or you can even get some that's just plain green. And this is cilantro. Funny thing about cilantro, you guys, you either like it or you don't. And it has to do with your body's chemistry. There's a certain enzyme in your system. And if it doesn't like cilantro, it's going to taste like soap. And if you do love cilantro, you're not going to be able to get enough of it. You're going to go, oh, Mom, can we put that in the salsa again, please, Mom? Please, please. But there, you can grow your own. Another idea over here, who likes blueberries? This is a little blueberry plant that you can get. And you put it in some soil and you can put cilantro around it and pansies again. There's more lettuce and Swiss chard in here. And we've even got a kale. If you wanted to, you could make a pot that's got a sunflower in the top. You could grow some peas in a pot with pansies in the front and lettuce on the side. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do, and it doesn't need to be big, you guys. And if you don't have something, you could even just take a bag of soil, lay it flat on the ground, cut out an opening, take it off. You can plant your lettuce. You can plant little fingerling or little ball carrots in it. You could do radishes. You could have lots of fun growing stuff. Bye.